This time of the year reminds me a lot of my sweetheart because we actually got married in December in the middle of a great big snowstorm in Salt Lake City. It was so snowy that some of the people weren't able to make it back for the reception that we had that evening at my church. So I always think of him anyway at Christmas time. We used Christmas trees to decorate for our reception and then had our first Christmas together in a little teeny apartment in sort of downtown Salt Lake. We were pretty poor, and so that first Christmas I gave him me for Christmas. I got in a big box and put a bow on the box and then told him to come in, and he came out and took the bow off the box, and there I was. We moved around quite a bit when we were first married, and by the time we had our next Christmas, we were in a fourplex in Bountiful, and we had our little daughter DarEll, and then we moved to another fourplex that we were able to buy in Bountiful by the next Christmas, and DarEll was about a year old and we were really poor. The only decorations we had were ones that my friends had made for me at a shower just before I got married, and I actually still use that Christmas tree skirt and some of those ornaments, and I think that is kind of what got me started making homemade ornaments for the tree each year as special things happen. By the fourth Christmas, we had moved into our first house in Sandy in White City on Amber Lane. And Lynn was working hard to fix up that house for us, and then by the next Christmas we had moved into a duplex in Orem, and by the next Christmas we had moved into a home in Orem that we stayed in for several years. And I had kind of the tradition of making homemade pajamas for the kids, and I would let them open those on Christmas Eve so that all the pictures on Christmas wouldn't be of them in their old pajamas. Lynn had a hand accident after we had 4 kids. Jerusha was born, and it was towards the end of the year, and so he was having surgeries, actually rebuilding his hand just right before Christmas. And so when I think of Christmas, I think of that Christmas too. Again, he had been out of work for a while and we didn't have very much, but I had fabric. So I made pajamas for the kids, and I made a pillow for him. Sorry, I didn't know this would be so emotional already. That had our family embroidered on it. And he was so sweet. It didn't matter. He was always happy and excited to be with the family and spend time together on Christmas. I think that Lynn had great fond memories of Christmas as a child. He usually got one really nice thing, and so he kind of wanted to do that with our kids. Have one really nice thing for Christmas. The only problem was is I would keep seeing all these other little things. Oh, that's so cute. So-and-so would just love that. And oh, that's so cute. So would just love that. And so we kind of ended up working out a compromise where he would pick one nice thing and I would get lots of little little stuff that I thought the kids would enjoy. Lynn always enjoyed shooting bows and arrows as a child, and so this is something that he had a lot of fun with the kids too. As they got old enough, he would go bow shooting with them. We'd get toy bows or do some gun shooting, and then he enjoyed that a lot, and all the kids have enjoyed doing that too. And then when we had snow, especially when we lived in Ohio and in Utah, we'd go play in the snow, and he had a lot of fun pulling the kids around in the tractor on inner tubes, and we had a great big hill that they could go sledding down, and he had a lot of fun doing that. And he would just enjoy sitting on the floor and playing with the kids with whatever little toys they got. Still some pretty tight times. I remember making a little baby doll out of scrap material again for Tiara when she was a baby, and we like to get our own Christmas tree, so we'd have a big family event and go out and look for a Christmas tree. Sometimes we even took one down out of the forest here over by where we live, but most of the time we went somewhere where they sold Christmas trees. We loved that smell of the fresh Christmas tree, and so that was kind of a tradition that we had. And we like to make Christmas goodies. I think two of Lynn's favorites are fudge and pfeffernusse. Pfeffernusse was not so much a favorite of some of the kids. In fact, we laugh about Darlene and Jerem making pfeffernusse and plugging their noses while they stirred the dough, and talked about how they, oh yeah, we remember this stuff, we make it every year and we hate it, so we give it away to everybody else. Which wasn't exactly the idea, but that's what they got out of it. We also had a tradition of the kids all lining up shortest to tallest in the hallway or on the stairs, depending on what kind of a house we were in, and then they'd come in while Lynn and I would take pictures Christmas morning, and that was fun. Lynn had to, two times we had to live apart. Once was when Lynn first went to Ohio and we were still here trying to sell the house. Adam was a senior in high school then, and then finally we were able to join him. And then when Lynn moved back with Brigham, right after Brigham got home from his mission, he and Brigham came down here, and Adam left on his mission, and Jerusha went away to BYU, and I was left with the younger kids on the farm to try and sell the farm and see if we couldn't get back together. And he would come visit us, and you know, every couple of weeks or so, but we were really grateful when we were finally able to be back together again as a family, even though at the time we were just living across the street in a fifth wheel and a camper. We were still thankful to be able to be together. Finally, we ended up back in this house, and by then Brigham was married and Adam got married and came home from his mission, and he was getting married. And so being able to get DarEll had gotten married before that, before we moved to Ohio, and so getting everybody together again wasn't something that happened very often. And I know Lynn's family was the same way. He's one of 8 kids, and the oldest in his family, and he loved being able to get together and do things with his family. And that's hard to get everybody together, but they were able to do it sometimes at family reunions or at Christmas time, and I think it was a real blessing that he was able to, especially in the later years of his life, be able to make more trips to Utah, because he had work, business things, working on temples and stuff, that he was able to make more trips. Jerusha got married in January, and then Ammon and Faith got married the same year. Ammon got married in the Salt Lake Temple, just like we did with Crystala, and Brigham and Amy did too, and that was special to be able to be there with them. And Faith got married here in Dallas, and so I think we both liked getting kids a lot better than we liked losing kids. But one of the nice things about seeing your kids marry in the temple and start their own families is the wonderful grandkids that you get. And Lynn and I both loved being grandma and grandpas, and I know he still watches over not only his kids but his grandkids. He did a lot of the same things with his grandkids that he would do with his kids. He enjoyed taking them on hay rides, shooting with them, looking for pecans, going on hikes, sled riding, snowball fights. Another tradition that we had was that Lynn would read the nativity story on Christmas Eve from Luke, and we had different ways that we would do that, and as the grandkids came along, we would let them play the parts, and sometimes our kids and whoever had the baby would be Mary and Joseph with baby Jesus, and he would read that story. Last Christmas, well, I guess the Christmas before was the first Christmas we had without Lynn, because he died just 6 days before Christmas, and his funeral was the day before Christmas Eve. I was so thankful to have all of the kids there to be a support for me, and we actually, in those of us that were here nearby that could be there, were in the hospital room with Lynn as he was dying, and we had Cody read the nativity story, and we sang some Christmas songs together. By the next year, we had our family room put together, and we were able to meet here. And it was a big surprise for me when it came time to have the nativity story read. I had asked Brigham if he would read it, that someone had a recording of Lynn reading the nativity story, and they played that, and that was just really special to hear his voice, and it felt like he was here with us. He loved being with the family, and I'm sure it's hard on him to not be with us. He loved doing things with the grandkids, holding him on his lap, teaching him things that he knew, playing with them. As I've gone back and looked through pictures of Lynn, he's always got a grandkid on his lap or on his shoulder, or carrying one around, and he just really loves all of his family.